Wait, Lee Keener, could you do an invocation for me?
Lord, we pause once again to come before your presence and pray, ask for your guidance, ask for your wisdom. Thank you for those that are here making decisions on our behalf. Thank you for our citizens. Lord, I pray for those who will give the reports. Thank you for all the many blessings you've given us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Yes, sir. Dick Blake.
Here.
Harley Buzzard. Jack Baker.
Here.
Joe Bird. Julia Coates. Jody Fishinghawk. Here. Janelle Fulbright. Don Garvin. Frankie Hargis. Present. China Glory Jordan. Lee Keener.
Amen.
Curtis Snell.
Here.
Janice Taylor. Here. David Thornton. Victoria Vesquez.
Ani.
David Walkingstick. Kara Callan Watts. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd like to ask for approval of minutes.
Make a motion to be approved.
Second.
All in favor? And it's passed. Reports, Marcia Lamb.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I don't have too much to report. I just wanted to say that we have purchased 20 air conditioners through our LIHEAP program. They are, there's 10 BTUs and 12 BTUs for our tribal members. And just remember that they do have to be LIHEAP eligible for these air conditioners. We will also look at, see if there's funding available to purchase some stoves. And that'll be wood stoves and probably propane stoves. But we'll be able to report on that later. The only other thing I have is that next month there'll be 2 resolutions, just the normal food distribution and LIHEAP, so they'll be coming next month. That's really all I have to report on.
Okay. Any questions?
Marcia, I just wanted to say thank you for the help assistance Friday evening with the air conditioner for the elderly couple. And I wanted to thank Chip Cochran from rehab for coming back to pick it up and installing it for them.
4:45, wasn't it?
Yeah, 4:45. He got done working about 6:30.
Yeah, yeah.
David Pruitt, you might want to mark that on your calendar.
Any other questions? Good report. Thank you. Ron Qualls.
Good afternoon, all. I don't really have much of a report other than I would like to spend a few minutes talking about, hopefully it's a few minutes, talking about the Indian Housing Plan. So, unless there's questions for the monthly reports, if not, I'll go right into the Indian Housing Plan.
Okay.
Okay. The funding for this Indian Housing Plan is almost identical to last year's. There's a $28,500,000. This time it's $28,017,000. So pretty much the same. The other thing is, it's important, I think, that we all understand and know that the funding that is being budgeted for the upcoming 2016 fiscal year is the 2015 funds. I can't recall exactly when the 2015 funds came in. I believe it was, might have been January, February of last year. And that's the reason that we always prepare the Indian Housing Plan on the previous year's funds. We're coming up on 2016 fiscal year, and the 2016 funds are, I guess I could say, nowhere in sight. So it's normal. It's the way the federal government works as far as the budget goes. We just don't know when the budget will be approved. So we always work on prior year's funds. And that way we have the funds. And 2015 money's been in the bank for quite some time now. And the same thing will be happening probably with 2016 funds. We will historically receive the funds anywhere from 3 to 4 or 5 months late. The budgets are very close to previous years as far, because the funding is close. There is a difference in prime income for some housing authority programs, which are not NAHASDA. So, with that, I'll try to answer any questions I can.
Got a question from David Walkenstick.
This is under new business. Should we just go on reports and save those questions?
Well, we could, and he asked to at least touch base on it. And I think we'll come back here in a little bit with the resolution, Ron, but I think you just wanted to get the basics out probably.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's right.
and we will come back.
My only concern, Ron, was a couple of weeks ago in our last meeting, some people reported from your department that the IHP was late, or the submission was late, and my question is why was it late? Why was it delayed? Was there other departments involved? Is that why it was late? Like, what's your explanation on why the IHP was late?
Late is,
Past the deadline, and we got an extension.
yeah. We planned on July 17th as the time to bring the Indian Housing Plan here. And it was ready, but we had decided that we wanted to take another look at the replacement home budget. There's been a lot of discussion on the replacement home budget, so we wanted to take a look and see if there was any additional funding that we could come up with in time to get it on this, in this Indian Housing Plan. And we wasn't able to do that. We're hopeful that we'll be able to identify some additional funding for these replacement homes, because we have some folks on there that's been on the waiting list 3 years, or in some cases a little more. And so we applied for and received a waiver of the deadline, and it's automatically a
90 days.
3 months, a 90-day time period.
I work with federal grants. I don't like to jeopardize that much money and services. In the future, let's try to plan in advance on if we are going to go that route and increase replacement homes. But let's not be late. That's a concern to myself. And maybe it's okay, and it's something we do with Washington D.C. and get 90-day extensions. But anyways, that's
Okay,
those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I understand that, and the ability to get a waiver of the deadline at one time was extremely hard, almost impossible. But what's happened over the past few years is to meet the deadline. Some tribes and housing authorities would just submit, I'm gonna say junk. And that caused HUD more of a hassle than having a waiver of the deadline. And so they've eased up on it, and it's very simple nowadays to get a waiver of that deadline. But I agree with you, it shouldn't, what we are going to try to do is submit the IHP 30 days early. And that's what we told HUD in our request for the waiver.
Okay. That's all I have, Chairman. Thank you.
And Harley, is your question about IHP, if it is, could I ask you please to hold it until we get down to it? Or-
Oh, okay, sure.
And I appreciate it, thank you, Harley.
Yeah, anytime.
Any other questions about just the report? And we'll stay with us, Ron, we'll get back to you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. And I don't see Gary Cooper today, oh, here we go, sorry. Pardon me.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Erna Reeves, Deputy Director at the Housing Authority. Gary couldn't be here today. He's at negotiated rulemaking meeting. I think it's the last one this go around. They're negotiating the formula for the Indian Housing Block Grant. You received a copy of his report. I have a couple things I wanted to point out. The first being that at the end of last month, we had completed 226 new construction homes. And coincidentally, we have another 226 that are in various stages of construction. They're either under contract or currently being built. Also, the next meeting of the Housing Authority Board of Commissioners is next week, Tuesday night, August 18th at 5:30. They're at the Housing Authority Administration Conference Room. If you have any questions for me, I'll be glad to try to answer those for you.
Harley?
Erna, on those houses being built in West Salem Springs,
Mm-hmm.
what are we doing with the sewer? Is it going over to Arkansas, the sewer for the social housing districts?
I wish I knew. I can't answer that question. Those homes are being built by CNB.
Yeah.
Housing Authority's gonna buy them once they're completed. I haven't been involved with that, so
Okay.
I can try to find
Well,
out.
it's not that important. I'm just curious to what's happening over there with it. And
I think it's West Siloam because we did do a donation to the town of West Siloam to help improve the lift station there.
I'm not sure what we're doing over there. And one of those houses, do you have any idea when the completion date is on?
We, a couple staff members and I went up there last week and met with one of the foremen, and he says, you know, by Thanksgiving, I think he's being very optimistic with that, because there are only 14 that have, they've even done anything with. There are 15 others, so I think it's gonna be, 2 or 3 months before they complete any of them.
What about tenants? Do we pretty much have those tenants identified that's gonna be there?
I think we got about half of those identified. We sent out interest letters to both Adair and Delaware County families on the waiting list. We're still getting responses back.
Will those houses be in fee simple terms when homeowners take them over, or be in trust, or are they gonna pay taxes on them, or how's that work?
They're fee simple, but they're in the Housing Authority's name. So they are tax exempt.
So there will be taxes in, but there
Yes.
will be money paid in lieu of taxes in?
Yes,
Okay.
we do make those pilot payments.
Okay, that's good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else?
When Harley asked you about the sewer and you said we helped West Siloam in their sewer department, was that us, the tribe, or you, the housing authority?
Housing Authority, yes. They asked for some assistance because that lift station is gonna serve those 29 homes that will belong to or be in the Housing Authority's name, and it also serves the casino. I think the tribe contributed some money from what the city manager had told us. I don't remember how much, but we
So-
kicked in a little bit too.
So the housing authority kicked in some money or CMB?
Housing Authority. CMB is building the houses. The Housing Authority is gonna buy them once they're completed.
Could you give us a breakdown on who paid for what for West Side Loan?
Well, I can, not right this minute. I can find out and,
Sure, yeah.
and let you know.
Just send it to, or send it to Gail or Shelley, and they'll send it to all of us.
Okay, I can do that.
And thank you. Any other questions?
I'd like you to take this with you.
Okay.
Oh, you got one more, Dinah?
I'm just making sure, I saw a comment that somebody had sent me a screenshot, and that was not one of your, some of the comment was there had been elders waiting for years, but that's on another program, is that right?
I think so. I saw that. Should I talk about what that is?
Well, I was just making sure that they were getting programs confused.
I think so. There was a comment, it was actually on Facebook. Someone had commented that we had elders waiting for several years while someone had been on the waiting list for only 1 year and they're receiving a home in the new construction program. That's actually pretty typical because families that own their own land receive preference in that program, and it does take a year from the time they apply to actually being added to the project. We're thinking that, well, number one, the program's only a couple of years old, so there can't be anyone that's waited years for new construction. The only other program could be rehab under the tribe, which is, included in the housing plan, and only a limited number of families can be served per year. So if someone has waited several years, it may be one of the other programs, but definitely not the new construction.
And Ron, you might join in on this, even on replacement homes. I think that was a program we just visited, and the oldest the applications were about 3 years old because you cleared those off with stimulus money.
That's correct.
So I'm not sure where that comment, the comment was like, we've been waiting for years and years and years. Well, we can't find a program where you have been waiting for years because you cleared off the replacement homes with the stimulus money. You started this program in 2012, and if you have land, I can see now where you're taking an application in for land and it immediately goes into the system in the mode of let's see if the land's marketable, let's see if it's free of a mortgage, let's see if it is buildable. That year is really, to me, even a year now is not the length of time that it's actually taking if you own the land. You're getting into the system almost that day. If you meet that $15,000 threshold where we know you can make the payment, and if we can get you into a marketable state, and that's a big issue there, because that's the first bump that puts you off the road to success is your land is not marketable and it's going to be tied to a loan, and so we have to get some marketability, and that is kicking a lot of them off to the side. Well, you explain to them, we can't just have a piece of land, it's got to be a marketable piece of property. And you're making headway, it appears to me, on the even bigger list of people with no land. The problem with no land is, we've talked about this in committee a lot, it's hard to find land, isn't it? It's hard to find land in all of our areas, and then when you do find it, you have to pay dearly, and when you pay quite a bit for the lot, it's gonna have to be figured into the overall cost of the home. And there may have to be an adjustment there, because it didn't come with a piece of land that we could build on. But I think overall, with almost 500 now in the system are being completed, it appears to me the program is working, and I just see bigger and better things for it now. Lots of people can be housed over the next couple of years in this program, very affordable. But I don't have Facebook, but they're really good at screenshotting and sending it to you though, so you know what's going on. But I thought that can't be a quite an accurate statement, because I just don't see which program we're talking about.
And most of our programs, you know, they specifically mention elderly, handicapped, and disabled, and we do have preference for those folks in our other programs.
Well, they did not mention rehab, so it had to be one of the two programs that you all administer, and those programs don't have the number of years on the applications that they were saying in that comment. Thank you.
Harley?
I think, kind of alluding to what Counselor, the speaker was talking about, somebody had also said something about the eligibility of it. Can a felon, convicted felon, own those houses?
We do a criminal background check. So, I mean, they would have had to made it through that phase of the application process to even get as far
So
as
they can't,
to be on a contract.
they can't own it? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think it's,
Not zero tolerance anymore.
we're right, it's not zero tolerance anymore. I think it's gonna depend on what the offense was and how it was dispensed with in the
Oh, I
end.
see.
You know, if it's still showing on their record and that kind of thing.
I see.
I don't have access to those records. We protect those.
But you do background checks?
We do, our staff
So you
does
would
do
pick it up in the
criminal
back,
background checks.
so you would pick those up in the background check?
Yes.
Well, I think it's an interesting thing to see, because I know we have the reentry program that we're working on, so I think those things, we need to look at some of that stuff too, so. Some of those felons aren't, you got a felony sometime, it may be for nothing, but you're a felon, and it shouldn't be, I don't think held against you that much. It's a serious felony, I think it's a little bit, I think there's steps that we need to look at those things, so. But anyway, I didn't know if that was a program policy that if you're a felon and you're just out or not.
No, we do the criminal background checks and all our programs.
So what's it say in the Federal Register? If you're a felon, can you get into those?
Well, I think a lot of it is determined by your local policy, but it does say that you do the criminal background checks, that the law enforcement organizations are required to provide you the information, and then decisions are made from there.
Well, I think what I'm getting at is, if we could change that, then I would be willing to look at it. Because I don't think all felons should be classified in one class, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and
Maybe we need to visit that at some
Yeah,
point
and
in
NAHOSTA
time.
does not say, you know, if you do these offenses, you're automatically out.
Yeah.
There are some things, of course, that you wouldn't be considered, but.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You have a clarification?
Yeah, I think right now it's a case-by-case basis, and if the felony is over 10 years old, they will consider it as long as it's not violent or drug-related. That's the current policy.
Like, my question was, as far as regulations, I know we always come to the FARs, stuff like that, and I'm just wondering, if we can change the policy, then we probably need to look at policy.
Mr. Thornton? Yes, sir.
Can we speak on funding of replacement home programs?
Why don't we wait till we get that?
Okay.
Would that be okay?
Yeah,
David?
it's fine.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other? Yes, ma'am.
Just to make one additional comment on, there's a difference in your programs too, Erna, is that right, on whether they can have a criminal background or not? The new housing program is a creation, not using federal money.
Yes.
So it has policies that can be a little more flexible, as I understand, that were created to allow more people into housing on their own land. And now, if they were to go into maybe your rental assistance program, your criminal background check would be looked at a lot harsher, because they're gonna be living with a common wall next to another person. And then you gotta look at whether they've been convicted of murder, rape, armed robbery, lewd molestation or something of that nature. But you can be a little more flexible, as I understand, if they're gonna live out in the middle of their 40-acre tract of land, not around anybody, but maybe some of their other family, and it's just because they're needing a home because their old home or their old premises is they're no longer able to use it. So you look at it on a program by program basis too, don't you, on your criminal background? When I said zero tolerance back in the Clinton era, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It was, we checked your criminal record. If you had one, you could not use any of the services of the housing authority. That was basically it. And Ron will remember that, way back when Ron was director. It was zero tolerance.
One strike, you're out,
Yeah.
that's what it said.
But we have tried to get away from that over the years and say there can be rehabilitation, there can be a difference in the type of crimes. Jody just sat here and said, yeah, there's a big difference between a CRM and a CRF. One's a misdemeanor and one's felony. So there's a big difference. We didn't make those differences 15 years ago. We didn't care because we were under a mandate when I worked there. The government said zero tolerance. So if you had anything, you couldn't get those services. We've come a long way since then.
Yes.
A long ways. And still weigh the needs of the people that you would live with versus the people that need the services. Still weighing the services. Still weighing the job. Thank you.
That's it, and thank you. Good report. Michael Lynn?
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I want to apologize for not being here during last month's committee meeting. We had a longtime staff member of the Oklahoma, it's actually Southern Plains Tribal Technical Assistance Program, retire. Harley might probably remember Jim Self. Retired that day. They held a retirement reception for him, and I chair the Oklahoma Tribal Transportation Council, and we presented him with a going away gift. So that was the reason I wasn't able to be at your meeting last month. Just to go over a few of the projects, I think you have a copy of my report in your packet, but just to go over a few of the projects we've got underway right now. In Mays County, we've got the Wycliffe Bridge. That project actually began contract began at liquidated damages last month, month of July. There were 24 days of liquidated damages assessed on that contract. It's a 330-day contract. We haven't been in any type of negotiation at all with the contractor yet, but I did want to notify everyone that that contract was in liquidated damages. Approximately 75% complete, and it is a 115-foot span bridge, along with about 2,500 foot of roadway. We also, with that project, having some issues with a paving subcontractor that Prime has a contract with to do asphalt laydown. Asphalt on that job is very rough. And actually it's a finished product, finished surface course, what we call it, and it's very rough. So we're working with that contractor to try to get that remedied and get a better, smoother ride up there on that job. In Delaware County, we've got the Kenwood Bridges.
Where's this project?
Sorry, it is where you turn there to go to Pumpback Road that goes to that gravel quarry up there. It's a bridge just before you get to that turnoff.
Oh, okay. I know it.
Right there by New Jordan Cemetery, I think is what it's called. In Delaware County, we've got 4 bridges on Kenwood Road through there. They're approximately 75% complete. Their contract is scheduled to end towards the end of January of 2016. They're progressing very good. They've got all 4 bridges constructed at this point. There's just tight bridge header construction, as well as dirt work, earthwork, and ag base and asphalt. We do have one project up there that has been asphalted by the same subcontractor that was on the Mays County Bridge. Same story, just different bridge. Extremely rough pavement. We did meet with the prime contractor on the bridges, as well as the paving subcontractor last Friday, and we're working to try to get those remedied. And we pay a lot of money for these projects, pay a lot of money just for paving. And we expect them to be a good federally built road when we're done. And that this is just not up to the standards. There's no problem so far when working with the contractor or the subcontractor. The subcontractor realizes that there's an issue. He fessed up to it immediately and said that he would work with us to remedy it, so I was very glad to hear that. In Adair County, we did finally get the CNI Industrial Project Road off the ground. Frankie's smiling at me. It's been a long time coming, and we're in the process of authorizing a contract extension on that job. For projects that were let during the month of May and June through ODOT, for instance, ODOT has almost, for lack of a better word, wiped those 2 months off the calendar. If you had a project going with ODOT through those months, they've basically given you back that time to extend your contracts. And I learned that through negotiations with the contractor that had that CNI job, and he showed me in writing what ODOT had sent out across the whole state of Oklahoma to their contractors. And it was probably the wettest months we've seen in a long, long time. So we're working with them on that. We have granted a contract extension. And looking back, I'm glad they didn't open that road up during that time, or we would have had a mess on our hands. So it's probably, in hindsight, it's probably a good thing that they didn't get started when they were supposed to have. But we're hoping for good dry weather, and as they progress, they shouldn't be in there too long. Things are going real well so far. We've had a little bit of a utility issue here late last week, but we're working through that, and it is moving along. That contract is scheduled to end the end of November. I mean, the 1st of November, 2015. And lastly, I want to mention in Cherokee County, we've got the 10 Killer School Road project. We did hold a mandatory pre-bid meeting on August 4th. We had 9 subcontractors that attended a meeting, so that was a pretty good turnout on potential bidders. We'll hold bid openings on that on August 25th at 10 o'clock. So we'll be looking forward to analyzing those bids and coming forward with an award on that project soon. And then lastly, on Northeast Fort Gibson Road that crosses between Cherokee and Muskogee County, we are trying to finish up the right-of-way acquisition process on that. There was around roughly 130 parcels on that project, one of the biggest right-of-way projects we've undertaken. Their last report was they were down to 28 parcels left, so they broke the 100 mark. They were excited about that. We're just now even though we're down to the last 28, that's probably the toughest ones that we're going to have to deal with. Those are sometimes what we call the holdouts. But we're going to work with those, try to do what we can to get that right-of-way secured. Any right-of-way that we're not able to secure, we'll have to work with the county to either come in and try to do some negotiation or potentially condemnation. So that is my report, Mr. Chair, and I'll be glad to answer your questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Michael, on 2 and 3 under Cherokee County projects, remind me again where the start and stop is on each one of those.
Okay, Holbert Lost City. I know we've had discussions on this before. It's not a real good name because that is essentially Grace Hudlin Road. It is Grace Hudlin Road. It starts, so if you know where those are, correct, start and stop on those. Now, Lost City Road will pick up right, I believe it picks up right there at the intersection of Grace Hudlin and the end of Jones
Goes
Road.
towards Peggs.
And goes towards Peggs, yes, ma'am.
But
Toward
it
Lost
doesn't
City.
get all the way to Peggs.
No, it does not go all the way to Peggs. It does stop short of Peggs because the commissioner will come in and improve that.
Now, I want to ask again, why is it we're not starting from Halbert and going to Grace Hudlin?
It wasn't added to that project, but it is something we've got an eye on.
Okay.
It's something
So-
we can definitely add in the future.
Will our eye catch up with these 2 projects possibly?
Well, what now?
Will your eye, you got an eye
Oh,
on it? Is that gonna catch up with these 2 projects?
Catch up. I'm not.
Well, how do we get, you're doing your work in the middle.
Yes.
How do we get back to starting at Halbert and going to Grace Hudlin Road?
It'd have to be added as a subsequent project.
Okay, so how far away are we to doing that?
We update our tip about every year to year and a half, and we're probably 6
Oh.
months out from doing that.
But we asked for this to be put on tip several years ago. We've still not got it on there?
I don't know that we've had a tip update since then.
Went and took the traffic count.
We did do traffic counts, and I think we've got some housing type surveys for Native
Got some
American.
what?
Housing survey as far as population, Native American population, Cherokee population through there. I think we have that data.
Okay. Can we work on getting it on the tip?
Yes. Yes.
Because the folks keep asking me, well, why are we starting in the middle? I don't have a good answer for them. Because I know where you intersect the old Joe's Red Barn Road, which is called Jones now, with, at the bottom of the hill, which then you were gonna go on around on Grace Hudlin Road.
Correct.
And I try to tell them, you know, well, it's just a continuation of the old Jones Road project. Well, it's not very convincing to the people that live in the first, first 3 mi, or, yeah, about 3 miles. They wanna know how we're gonna get from Halbert to there, which makes a whole lot of sense.
It does, and you can argue till the cows come home on where to start and stop a road. You're never gonna make everybody happy. But if you look at our maps of projects that we built over the last 20 years, it's kind of a big network, and we'll end one here, and then a year or two later, we might pick up another one at the end of that one, and then we might veer off of that one. So it's like a big network, we'll definitely look at getting it on there.
Because
It needs to be.
If you go from where you're starting this one back towards Halbert, there's one Indian on that road. I mean, we're down to one non-Indian. You know, I think we could let him go ahead and drive on the road. The rest of them are all your Cherokee folks, and they have a very legitimate request that, hey, we would like to drive from our house to Halbert where you can get on the main feeder road. And it makes a whole lot of sense. We're gonna have this really nice road that is in the middle. And it's not the way that most of them are trying to go out and go to work. So if we can keep looking at it, I appreciate it.
We will.
And then you got those other 2 roads.
Yes.
We'll put those on for the 17th. Those 2,
From Commissioner Botts.
yes.
Yes, got those.
Okay,
Yes,
all right.
they will be on there. If they weren't already on there last month, were they?
No, they weren't on there last
Okay,
month. I
they'll
think
be
we're
on
gonna try to add them this month. David and I were just talking about them
Okay.
today.
We'll be
All right.
sure they're on there. You bet.
Thank you very much.
Don Garvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michael, I want to say thank you for the help you gave us on that Ross Road. It turned out real good.
Very good.
Citizens really appreciate it, and maybe driving a little fast, maybe around 90, but have you put some Cherokee signs up yet?
I don't know if there's been any signs installed. I'll verify and see. There's not, there should be.
Also, on the Fort Gibson Road, you mentioned there was a big article in the Tulsa World yesterday about the American burr and beetle. You probably read that. But,
No, I didn't, actually.
this old boy down McAllister, I think it's kind of a habitat for the beetles, and he goes around checking, and he gets those rotten chicken gizzards, and said he had a real stinky job. But anyway, do we still have those on this Fort Gibson Road, the second beetle?
The last test result survey that we did, and Tom Elkins' group did, they came up. They were there. We're continuing. We're pressing on to get the right-of-way secured. We're coming up on the time. I think it's in the month of
Does he use
August.
that same kind of trap,
Yes,
those
sir.
rotten gizzards and stuff?
They use some sort of rotten meat. I'm not sure if it's gizzards or not, but I think they're using frozen rats. I think's the last I knew, but Tom and his folks could tell you a whole lot more about it than I can. But we're coming up on the season again to test. We're crossing our fingers and hoping that we get some negative results. If we do get positive results again, it could further delay the project. But
So if they find one more, it'll stop it or slow it down?
it stops it until the next season, next survey season, which is during the month of August and I believe a part of September.
So boy, McAllister, I think, does that every day, and his wife's about to run him off. He comes home so stinky and all those rotten gizzards. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Any other questions? Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Anna Knight. Afternoon.
You should have a copy of my report in front of you. I would just, the only other comment I have is that we're working to get about another 75 families, closed with MAP by the end of September, so we're busy doing that. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Well, you're good.
I take that as a compliment to the thoroughness of my report. Thank you.
Okay, let's see, old business, none pending. New business, Tina, would you like to take that, please?
Yes, this is the Indian housing plan that we've all been anxiously awaiting for, the 2016 Indian housing plan. And I will put the resolution in the form of a motion for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any questions or comments?
And we have Mr. Claus here for any
Yes.
questions.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Ron, I had looked over the housing plan, and you said a while ago it pretty much follows last year's, and I don't see any big changes in it, although I do have 2 or 3 questions in. Don't know if you can explain or not, but you touched on rehab a little bit a while ago, and I see in the housing plan it's $27,000. Usually don't we have 35,000 on those rehabs? I don't know why we had to change on it.
As the average,
Uh-huh.
I don't think there's any, David can correct me, but I don't think there's anything magic about the 35.
Okay. And I guess the reason I say that is because, and I don't know how the rest of them felt on this committee, but I always felt like we had a 35,000 minimum, maximum.
Yeah, I don't know if it's still in the policy, I believe it is, that if it goes over 35,000, we take a hard look at a replacement home instead of investing, $35,000 or $40,000 in an old.
And I noticed in this plan here, it says it's 27,000.
Are you looking at what page are you looking?
Oh, I don't know, I just had a bunch of notes down on here.
David can correct me, but I don't think we've changed that 35 down to 27. I think the 27 is our average cost.
Could be,
Hey,
I
Mr.
might have
Pruitt.
I might have misread that, but I was thinking it said 27,000. There's a good chart on the back of it, it tells what that stuff is.
It's on page 29 is
29?
30C for our number page. 29 of the housing.
You say 29?
Yes.
What page?
Yeah,
for us?
rehab assistance at an average of 27,000 per unit.
Okay. Okay, and I was just wondering about the change. Is that a drastic change from last year? Because I didn't see it on my old housing plan out for last year. But anyway, I guess my question would be, David, is if you go in and say you got a house that you're gonna do rehab on and you wanna spend $18,000 on it, then you could automatically spend the difference between 18 and 27,000, put it on another house. Can you do that?
Put it on another, yeah, that's
Yeah,
what we do.
so that's what you do.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that kind of answers the question. And that's the question I had. The other thing is that I've seen on here is rural rental. Tell me what rural rental is. There's a $10,000 expenses that you can spend on rural rental. I don't understand that.
Erna, you want to talk about rural rental?
It's one of our homeownership programs in the Housing Authority.
So that's with the home that you own, the housing authority owns that home?
Yes.
I see, okay. That answers that question. The other thing I just want to bring up, and maybe next year in the housing plan we can think about it. I noticed in the Housing Authority Scholarship Fund, and I don't remember the number, it seemed like it was over 600,000. I'm like, is there any reason we can't increase that? And the reason I say that is, we can use NAHADA dollars for those college scholarships, and it actually kind of reduce some of our money that we get for scholarships out of the Cherokee Nation Fund. So I don't know if there's a magic number that you can put in the NAHADA plan or not.
No, it's not magic, it's just, the HOSTA funds, just stretch over, so many programs, and if we increase that program, then we gotta decrease it.
Take a decrease in something else. And I'm just wondering, because I think a lot of people college is really important to our young kids. And the more we can get in college, the better off we're gonna be in the long term, so. I'd like for us to take it, if we could increase that up to 800, 900,000, next year, I think it'd help us all. But, I didn't know if it's a magic number that you come up with the college scholarship fund or not, but I did see it. I think it was either 80 or 88 that's gonna be funded out of this, so just keep it in mind, and, I'd like to see the college fund increased, if all possible. And I realize that that's something else gonna have to take a hit if we do increase it, but I just think college education is gonna be the key for our kids to be successful, so if you would kind of keep that in the back of your mind, and on the next ISP plan, if we do, Ron and David, who are sitting in on those, certainly like to see if we could increase those college scholarships. Okay? Thank you.
Sir, Mr. Thornton?
Yes, I do think quite a bit about education. I know that as far as discretionary funds, we do fund a lot of education, a lot of children. We hadn't missed anybody yet that I know of the last couple of years in funding them. But same thing that I asked last year, and we put a 1.4 million in replacement homes, and we build about 15 a year, what I understand. Is there any reason we can't build more than 15, except for money? I mean, can you?
That's the problem, money.
Okay. And last year I asked that there be a little more money put in that program. And I guess we didn't get it, but I know here about a few years back, a couple, 3 years back, we took discretionary funding and added to that program. So when we do the would you get your hand down? When we do the budget, we need to go through and check on that and see if we can't help some of these people that need replacement homes, because their home is so deteriorated in bad shape that they can't live in it. So we have to tear the things down and replace them, and there's several of them out there in my district. And I know in Cherokee County, Adair County, that need replaced, Adair especially is spoiled. And so we don't put very much money into that program, 1.4 compared to what we put into housing and try to build houses with it. For some reason, that program seems to work pretty good, and they're building a lot of homes, and it's helping our people. And I think those type of people, lower income people like that is, are the ones that we need to help. And that's where I'm at on it. So, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Janelle?
I want to say something about the replacement homes. I urge everybody on the council, if there's any way possible, to increase the funding for it in the future, because not that Sequoia County's got a special pull, but we've gotten more replacement homes than anybody, and it is a wonderful program. And I saw a write-up the other day for a home, I think it was around Porham, across the river somewhere down there. We were gonna do $38,000 worth of work on it for rehab. And to me, it would have been better to give those people a new house. So, but we have been very fortunate in mine and David's district. We did have a lot of new replacement homes, and very badly needed. I went out and checked on one the other day by the railroad tracks down there at Muldrow, and I looked in there and the ceiling was falling down. It was a big house, it was really old, and everything was just hanging where the roof had been leaking so bad, and they were building a nice new home right there beside it, and it's a great program, really is. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Walkenstick.
The home rehab, you guys got 7.8 million in there. Question is how much did we expend for merchant rehab last year? And then their question is what's the total number of, what's the amount it's gonna cost to complete the number of merchant rehab applications we have in?
That's a very good question.
What was the first part of your question?
You guys budgeted 7.8 million for the IHP. Question is how much did we expend of our merchant rehab budget from last year?
I'll let David talk about that, but we expended all of the NAHASDA funds and an additional, what was that additional amount?
300,000.
That was the end of it,
Right.
but there was additional, plus there was an addition, an additional, gosh, can't remember. Somebody should remember.
Well, so
It was close, I believe it was right at another $1 million is what was put in there.
So last year you guys budgeted approximately $9 million for merchant rehab?
Yes. And we got our fingers crossed, hoping we'll make it through September. It's gonna be close.
Okay. So you guys are projecting to spend the 7.8 million
Yes.
next
Plus.
year? My question is out of all the projects we have lined up for merchant rehab, what's the total cost of all those projects it's gonna take to get caught up? Are we talking about 30 million, 40 million, 50 million,
20 million.
20 million? Is
That
that
was
right?
the estimate that I gave earlier, but that's just,
That's just ballpark,
yeah.
yeah.
We, to
And
date,
so-
I think we've served right at 500 people with what funding we've had for this year. And,
Well, my question is, should this number been increased, or you're saying that you're not gonna be able to get to all of them this next year?
no, we never get caught up,
Never get caught up?
always. And we're taking in, last month, we took in 144 approved applications compared to 80 the months previous to, so our project.
Yeah, I know, when I visited with you guys in the past, you guys are always saying you're underfunded, and you guys don't have the funds to meet all the needs with merchant rehab, and, just trying to figure out a solution on how to get to that. Of course, this budget's your solution, but there's other projects, you gotta prioritize your expenditures. But it seems like the replacement homes and the mortgage assistance, rental assistance, and home rehab is a common service that we all use in our districts. Of course, those are your priorities. Anyways, probably won't come up with any answers today. We'll visit offline some more and try to come up with some solutions. So, all right, thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. Any other questions? I will say this about this program, you know, sometimes when you all come to bump up to that number where you think it's better off to build a new house than rehab the old one, not only do the folks who are our most neediest folks get a new home, not only that, but you also stop and save that rehab money, it appears to me. I think, is that correct? Yeah.
Sir.
And so that could go to other homes to be helpful to the other folks. And I know y'all are trying to come up with some ideas and thoughts about how to increase the replacement home. And because of that, I hope the administration can get the smart guys, all of you together, and figure that out. I think you heard some good suggestions from the speaker today on that. And anyways, you're doing a good job. We just need to find you some more funding. Appreciate that. Tina, do you have any last thoughts, or do you have something to add on the resolution?
I think all we can do at this point is consider passing the Indian Housing Plan, and you can make adjustments every month. Plus, there's gonna be a budgetary component to this that comes to you the end of August when you as a new council take up the budget. These are all questions that we have posed to them, and they have some alternatives that they're working on to maybe increase the replacement home money. It was a good thing a couple years ago when the stimulus, I believe they were stimulus funds came through, and you were able to clear off your entire list and start again. But has it been 3 years? In 3 years, it's developed right back up to 50, but you thought possibly it could even go as high as 70 once you completed your list. So it's a popular program. But we have to understand there's a big difference between, and this goes to the neediest of our people. There's no doubt probably in anybody's mind sitting here at this table that is a program that needs more money, because it is the neediest of the people, and it's also folks that have the least going in their home right now. But if we take money and put it there by just moving it around in this NAHASDA budget without getting creative, as we talked about this morning, it is going to take funding away from another program that also thinks that and truly believes and we believe is serving the neediest of our people. So it's a balancing act. And our NAHASDA funds are going down. One of the things we talked about today was maybe some forward funding, getting a little closer to the 16 money. But if we do that and then they cut down the HOSTA funding, then there is gonna be a program on the end that's gonna get shorted. So you have to think about that, how you can move that around, and that's something that you all are gonna have to think about when you take up the budget. I would ask for you though, given that this is a federal requirement, that we turn this Indian Housing Plan in, and it is a vehicle by which you can amend monthly. And this was something that was hard for me to learn 8 years ago. I wanted to make all those changes right then, but then I learned that you could, on a monthly basis, amend your Indian Housing Plan as you saw a need for your people. So we need to get this turned into the government so we're not out of compliance. But this body, as they see some creative alternatives, can amend this plan. So I would just ask that we move this forward to council tonight, if that would be possible, if we do have the vote.
And who was the second? You agree with that? Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, yes,
I
yes,
have
sir.
one other question, just on Title VI subsidies. When will those be paid off? Do we have any projection?
No, I can get that for you.
That'd be interesting, because we're taking up $600 to $1 million a year just on those subsidies, so.
Okay.
I'll get
Okay,
that for
okay.
everybody.
All right, thanks.
I can probably answer that for
Yeah,
you, Marty. It's, Title VI was when I did work there, and it's on a shorter payback.
Yeah,
The subsidy is on a shorter payback, will pay off the loan quicker than the houses will pay off. So your houses might be on 30 years, your subsidy might be on 20 years.
20 years, okay.
So it will eventually go
So
away.
it'll go away, okay. Well,
And that will free up,
free up $600 to $1 million.
but on the average, we're probably only into 10 years, maybe 12 years on that program.
Okay. Yeah, probably, about 10 years.
I've talked to several people that seem to have gotten their Title VI loans at about, they're 10 years into their 30-year payback.
Yeah, that's about right. Okay, well, that'll help when it frees up. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Okey-doke. Here we go on this resolution, and this needs to go over tonight, full council. And anybody want to be added as a sponsor if this passes? today?
Raise your hand.
Anybody who does not? Ron and David want to be added, so. Okay. All in favor of the resolution, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Any announcements? No announcements? Do I have a second? All in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. We're adjourned.
15 minutes.
15 minutes.